Hello again. It is once more Dr. Jimmy on this fine Sunday afternoon, July 8th. Looking to see if a thunderstorm was coming almost every day the past few days, right about this time. Boom, boom, lightning, flash, thunder, rain, rain. It gets all dark and scary outside. And I don't really mind too much, but it's not a good idea for me to be doing stuff on a computer that time because, you know, if there's a power outage, I could lose files and stuff. So I'd need to shut everything down when there's electrical activity. Yeah. At any rate, I have made today 2 videos which I really should have made a couple of weeks back. One for the haunted house announcement for Halloween Horror Nights 28 Slaughter Cinema a couple of weeks ago, and then another one also just week before last announcing the 2 remaining scare zones that they had, Chucky and Killer Clowns for Halloween Horror Nights 28. All that information is in 2 videos I've already made today, and they should be somewhere in the same area where you found this one. But now, to wrap it all up, all the information that's been pouring out of Universal over the past couple of weeks, what was revealed only a couple of days ago, last week, because it's already Sunday, so it's this week now, and last week was last week's, this week is this. No, let's not do that. But back a couple of days ago last week, when the whole freaking event was revealed, not in Orlando, not even in Hollywood, but in Singapore, which is odd because that's the last one to start. And we haven't heard anything. I almost said a naughty word. I almost said we haven't heard dick about the one. Oh, you did say it. Oh, well. We haven't heard. Do dicks make noise? How can you hear a dick? Oh, well. I haven't heard anything about Japan yet. And that's the one that starts first. In fact, if it follows the pattern in the past couple of years, Halloween Horror Night 2018 in Osaka, Japan, at Universal Studios Japan, would be starting on the day, mind you, not the night, but the day of Saturday, September 8th. But we don't know that yet because it hasn't been officially confirmed. Clever little placeholder website up there. It's more than we've ever got before to have that this early. Kind of cute and spoopy, but that's all we know about Japan. We don't have anything. But Singapore, mind you, they gave a reveal about Stranger Things a while back. So there's going to be a Stranger Things house in Singapore, one in Orlando, and Amazing Hollywood. Amazing. But also in Singapore, zombie laser tag. We knew about that. But then, just the other day, gosh darn, why is this doing it? I can't get it to stay on. I need my iPad to stay on because I want to show you pictures. Just the other day was revealed to press in Singapore. They called all the press, including bloggers and people who cover the event, showed up to get some information about the upcoming event. Universal Studios Singapore Halloween Horror Nights 8. The 8th year in a row, and they had just prior to that announced that it was going to start a day earlier than everyone had thought. Not on Friday the 28th, but Thursday the 27th. Whoa! On a Thursday. I mean, the last time Halloween Horror Nights started on a Thursday, if I'm not wrong, would have been in Hollywood in 1992. Thursday. Bloody hell. Wow. But still later than the others. And yet we got the whole event. So, they went to this thing, and it was done up like really spoopy. You had like, here's some pictures. This is from a blog called dejiki.com. That's DEJIKI.com. A guy named Nicholas Yao Dejiki runs this. It's probably the best source of information about horror nights in Singapore, except of course for Resort World Sentosa itself and their own blog and their own website. But but this guy really does a good job. So they had this setup. Look at that, spooky pooky. Oh, look at that, lovely. And they had food for them, because you know they serve the media nicely, and so they had all this spread. Oh, look at that. Oh, the yum yums and the spooky looking yum yums, and all of that to treat them right. And then, while they're there, suddenly some creepy people start to show up. And this guy shows up. He's like a gangster. He calls himself Red Paul, like P-O-L-E, like a poster, you know, a Red Paul. And he's telling them, you know, he's got tattoos on his neck. There's some creepy creatures around him, some spooky masked figures. He gives them this, you know, and Nicholas says, he said, well, are you like triad? Because that's what he kind of felt like, some kind of Hong Kong gangster. And he's like, he says, it's more than a triad. What you see will change your life forever. And they gave him some pledge papers to sign. And you look at the pledge papers, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but on there you see that symbol, that sort of a triangle. The words in Chinese are the Chinese symbols for eternal life in that triangle. And it says, I pledge my life to kill Illuminati. Like Illuminati, right? The Illuminati, you know, the whole Illuminati thing, right? But this is kill Illuminati. Ooh, edgy. And it says, I pledge my life to Lu Shi Fa. Yes, that's L-U, Lu, X-I, which in Chinese we pronounce Shi, and F-A, Fa. In fact, I don't know what the intonation would be, because it isn't marked, and even then I'm not good at that. But it might be pronounced something like Lu Shi Fa, almost like far, instead of just fa. Fa, Lu Shi Fa, which, what does that sound like? Lu Shi Fa. Oh, I know what it sounds like. Mr. Morningstar, yeah, the guy that runs that nightclub in California and hangs out with Detective Decker. Watch too much telly. Lucifer. Probably not that version, but, you know, a name of the fallen angel who was associated with being the devil. So Lucifer, then, is the head of this sort of triad, which turns out to be more than just a criminal organization, because there's a ritual. So here comes more of these guys, and this is all being done for the press. And so they have the ritual set up, and oh look, here's another guy, and he's making a sort of triangle symbol, and he's got some really neat masks and robes. And there's the guy himself, Lu Shifa, head of this organization. Ooh, spooky looking. He's got a lady on this thing, and then all of a sudden he pours what looks like blood out of a skull into a chalice. You see that? Yeah. And then pours the blood to the corpse, and then what's happening with that corpse? Something's rising out of it, and this horrific bat-like creature arises, bursting from the chest. A vampire. Yes, here we see a better look at this guy, Lucifer, the head of the Killuminati, which is more than just a Hong Kong triad gangster organization like you might see in movies like Infernal Affairs and other wonderful Hong Kong gangster movies. It echoes the whole ambience of that, but these guys are a vampire cult, an ancient vampire cult headed by a guy whose name happens to be a Chinese sound-alike for Lucifer. Oh, here's the best picture yet. Here we go. There we go. Really good close-up. Is he going to be the event icon? I don't know. Potentially, because he seemed to be featured really strongly in this little thing. And then, of course, they gave information about the remaining haunted houses and everything else. And thus, all of that. Let's see, where's got the best pictures? I think the best pictures is from RWS Scoop or Resort World Sentosa's own blog. Resort World Sentosa is the complex that includes Universal Studios Singapore. Resort World is the co-owner. So we go to that official blog, and there should be some really good graphics here. So bring that up. Now the name of the event will actually be, was revealed. It has a theme and a subtitle. So it's Halloween Horror Nights 8 Infinite Fear. Why Infinite Fear? Well, let's see, if I've got a scrap of paper. Let me just get a scrap of paper. There's a reason they chose that. Here is a numeral 8, right? Now 8 happens to be the luckiest, most positive, happy number in Asia. If an 8 is a good thing. If some people like hold their weddings on the 8th, or they like to schedule things on the 8th week or the 8th month or whatever, 8 is good. So how can 8 be scary? They have to do something and twist it a bit to make. So what they're doing is that. Because you turn it sideways, it's no longer an 8. Now it's the symbol of infinity, to infinity and beyond. No, that's the wrong company. That's like at the new Toyland World, the Toy Story World at Disney. Scratch that, and the Slinky Dog coaster. Skip that. We're talking about and that spaceship ride that everyone's calling ASS. Because it's ASS. I forget what it's actually called, but the initials come up to ASS. And so people say, I'm going to go ride some ass when they go on the ride. Okay, now. So what they've got is Infinite Fear. That's what they're calling the event. So it's supposed to be quite spoopy. And addition to Stranger Things, the first ever IP house. Well, they did sort of have an IP with Russell Lee's True Singaporean Ghost Stories a couple of years ago on the MRT Haunted House, but it was a new story that Russell wrote just for Horror Nights, not based on one of his previously published novels, so I guess it's not really an IP, and it's not like a movie or a TV show. So when it comes to Western-style Horror Night IP, Stranger Things is the first time they've done that. Okay, but 5 houses, including Stranger Things, so 4 original houses, all with Asian themes. And the first one was the one that all that stuff was alluding to. So, is Lu Shifa the event icon? Well, each of these 4 original houses has an icon listed at the blog. Lu Shifa is the icon for that house. So, have they got sub-icons sharing duty? Maybe. Or maybe it's not exactly an icon like we think of it. But in years past, when Lady Death was the event icon, other icons for the houses and Jack showed up on a stage show, but she was still the event icon. Last year, though, they had 7 icons sharing duty for the whole event. So there may be 4 icons, or none, or maybe Lu Shifa is the event icon, and the others are like his subordinate. I don't know. It doesn't really say. But it does list Lu Shifa as icon for the first original house, Killuminati, and this is the graphic for that on the Resort World Sentosa blog. Killuminati with a really neat graphic of the symbol, and it says eternal life, but it also has to do with it. And what's amazing about that, this Chinese secret society, some of the Chinese symbols underneath mean secret society. But what's amazing about that is that it's going to be an interactive house. And they're going to have a pre-show, maybe in the queue or outside the house, that leads you into it. And then they're going to separate people off. And there'll be different runs through the house and different an interaction with characters in the house where you might be working with people against Lu Shifa. You're going to be made a part of the story, and every time you go through it could be different. So this may be something you want to do more than once if you manage to get to Singapore. It's kind of like a really exciting it might even do some escape room shit. I don't know what they're, but it sounds like it's going to be a very interactive house. So I'm very excited. It says, you may end up in different vampire-laden secret chambers where gang members will enlist your help to plot an uprising against Killuminati's leader, Lu Shifa. So, and it's located on Vine Street next to the Sesame Street Spaghetti Space Chase. I've no idea where that is. Never been to Singapore. I want to so bad. Okay, here is a artwork. Now, obviously, the house hasn't been built. So this is a conceptual drawing which shows like a Hong Kong street area and maybe a nightclub or something okay, but it's all in Chinese, so I don't know what it says. Hollywood Road or something, I don't know. And all kinds of stuff, but you can see there's somebody like a bouncer or some kind of guard outside, enforcer. Looks just very fascinating. So that's conceptual for the haunted house. It looks, and that might be the facade for the house. I don't know, but it should be quite exciting. Okay, the third house, which is the second original, features a character which has appeared at Horror Nights in Singapore many, many times. Previously, she had been, I think it says here somewhere, let's see what it says. Well, it says here, in the lead to the opening night, 27 September, we'll be progressively revealing the icons for HHN 8. Each time a new icon is revealed, we'll be launching new game on the official HHN 8 website. So they are icons. So I think the 4 icons, and we know what they are because it lists them right here on this blog. So Lu Shifa and the Pontianak and Lady Oiwa and the Yin Demon are all icons for this event. 4 icons, all of whom are in the original houses. Now, let me see. Let me open something new and go back to Jackie, because he might have had it. Yes. So the Pontianak is a character. It's appeared at Horror Nights in Singapore on many occasions over the years. She was in Old Changi Hospital, the MRT, the MATI camp, and even the Forbidden Forest. And I think Old Changi was that last year? No, that was Horror Nights 6, so that was 2 years ago. And the MRT was at 5, I think it was. Yes, that was in 2015. The MATI camp was a haunted house from Halloween Horror Nights 4 in 2014. And the Forbidden Forest was, I think, a scare zone from the one of the 3 icons of Halloween Horror Nights 3 in 2013, the Crone of the Forest, or an outdoor house, whatever you want to call it. So she's been in all of these. I guess she took the year off last year, or else Jackie doesn't remember. But she's been in all of those. And the Pontianak, I think I've talked about her before when I talked about... I didn't realize she went all the way back to 2013 in Singapore. But she's a Malay vampire. The Malay, Southeast Asian, one of the ethnicities in Singapore are Malay. And they have a vampire, a woman who dies in childbirth. usually because a man has screwed her over. I mean, literally, because you can't have childbirth unless you've been screwed, obviously, literally, but also screwed over, or something's been betrayed by a man, and so she comes back angry and vengeful against men. Yeah, this is like supernatural Me Too vengeance of the worst order, okay? So if you messed up and you've abused a woman and she dies, she's going to come back for your balls. Literally, that's what the Pontianak does. And she looks very much like the classic spooky Asian ghost lady in the movies, the white dress, the long black hair. But don't be deceived. She's got claws, and she wants to rip your balls right off and eat them. That's what her modus operandi is. Now, I should point out, Singapore has a very strict censorship code, and they allow them to get away with a lot of horror nights to some degree, but I don't think they're going to allow any genital mutilation happening in a haunted house. They might, but everyone knows the story, and so the implication is there. But she's shown up in many ways, but they're going to put her into her own haunted house based on the original legends, which have her in Malay villages and bamboo forests, and especially around laundry. She has a thing about laundry. You leave your wash hanging out overnight, it's going to attract her. So that's why the Malays say, always bring your laundry in at night. Don't leave it hanging out to dry overnight, because it'll attract the Pontianak. So, there seems to be a subtitle, Revenge Lives Forever. At least the words are bigger than the word Pontianak. And forever, of course, connects to infinity. Right, and there's a poster. It's a poster for the whole event, actually, which features her because she's the first revealed icon. I know they revealed all of them at this press junket, but on the website, the only one that's shown up is Pontianak. And the other houses have coming soon. And the scare zones are there. And one of the shows are there except for the ceremony, which just says coming soon. So more logos popping up in the future. But the blog shows it. Resort World Sentosa, you see that up in one corner, Universal in the other. And that's what she looks like. Very spoopy lady in the banana forest, banana leaves. So banana leaves. Now, here's an artistic conception showing her around some shacks. Looks very, very Sadako there, doesn't she, from the ring? But that's not who she is. She's much more physical. Vampiric ghost, but long black hair, that's very common. All kinds of movies, TV shows, stories about Pontianak made over the years. Very familiar character to people in Singapore. But she's become a big hit at horror nights. She's almost like their Jack the Clown. I mean, they've had Jack there a couple of times, but I think no other iconic character has shown up as many times as the Pontianak, because I didn't realize she was in Forbidden Forest. She's been in haunted houses or scare zones, so that was 4 years in a row? That was 2013, 14, 15, 16, and now she's back this year, 2018. So, maybe skipping 1 year. That's a 5th appearance at least. Okay, now the 4th haunted house, which is the 3rd and last of the original. No, I'm sorry, not this will be because there's 5, right? So it's actually 4 original. So the 3rd original is Pagoda of Peril, and this one's, we had a Hong Kong house, we had a Malay house. This is more Chinese house, and not Hong Kong China, but regular China, and it's based on Taoist ideas, Taoism and Chinese religion, and it's called Pagoda of Peril. And we have a great pagoda, and it's got all kinds of rooms and mazes and creatures haunted, all sorts of legendary Chinese beasts and demons and what have you. Malevolent demons, terrifying spirits, trapped in this eternal prison, fighting in fury as they seek and find freedom. But it's all controlled by a demon of yin. The yin demon, personifying the whole Taoist idea of yin. And of course in Taoism the symbol, the yin and yang, right? And yang is the positive energy, the positive force, and yang I'm sorry, yin is the dark side. So yang is the positive force, yin is the darker side, and they complement each other. And let's see, in the actual logo of the house, we do have, as you see, a yin yang there, and it's, you know, the negative is actually negative space. That's clever. But they work together in balance and harmony. Harmony, very important concept. Harmony, very important concept in Chinese metaphysics. And of course George Lucas used all that because it's the force, right? The dark side and the other side. You need to balance that. If you balance that, then it's in through the middle path. According to Buddha, the middle path is the way you succeed. But because otherwise you'd be too far yin, too far yang, and you'd be out of balance, out of harmony, and then you become an evil monster. But the yin demon is pure yin. It is the incarnation of yin itself. It is darkness, evil, negativity. And this is, it may even have 3 heads, because that's what we see here in this picture. I don't know, it says Pagoda of Peril. We see 3 demonic faces, Pagoda of Peril, and a pagoda right over his head. So this is it right here, Pagoda of Peril. This is the logo for that house. And there's supposed to be some really exciting things, all kinds of Chinese monsters and demons from mythology, and a jade maze. That sounds cool, actually. Sort of fantasy house based on that. Now, there's no logo for the next one, but I'm really excited about this from my experience in Japan. This is the Japanese themed maze this year. So the original, this is the last of the houses and the last of the original houses. So the yin demon is going to be another icon. So that's, you know, but the haunting of Oiwa. Now Oiwa is Lady Oiwa, who'll be another icon. But the story of Oiwa is the most famous ghost story in Japan. It's supposed to be based on some true accounts, but essentially there was a woman named Oiwa who was the wife of a samurai. I think his name was Tamiya Iemon. That's I-E-M-O-N. People, when you see it written up in on the internet, in sometimes you see it written up in letters, you think it's an L, and they're writing the word lemon with a lowercase. It's not a lower, it's an uppercase I. But I say that because when I typed it up on Google, not Google, what is it? Tumblr. When I was posting this stuff on my Tumblr blog the other day, and I was typing it, and when I typed in the name Iemon, it looked like lemon with a lowercase L instead of an uppercase I, because the font on the type for the I doesn't have the crossbars. So it looks like, you know, it's like, oh, I hope people realize I didn't write in Tariya, I forget his first name off, but I didn't write in Lemon, because his name isn't Lemon, it's Iemon, I-E-M-O-N. Anyway, doesn't matter what his name is. He's a samurai, and he's married to this beautiful woman, and he has a fight with her dad, and I'm trying to remember the whole story. Basically, he starts getting tired of his wife, and there's another pretty girl who wants him, and so she tries to take her place, and she goes so far as to give Oiwa a present, some ointment for her face, which is actually poisonous and horribly disfigures her. Some pictures and movies is like a scarf, all scarred. Sometimes it's just really lumpy and weird, twisted, horrible, distorted, but it's a horrible disfigurement, and her husband wants nothing to do with her after that and betrays her, tries to get his uncle or some relative to kill her, and finally she gets upset and she kills herself. Sometimes it's an accident, but in any way she's dead, and now she's comes back as a vengeful ghost. She's been done wrong, like the Punchin Act, she's been done wrong by a man. She's coming back for revenge, and she's like very classic Japanese ghost. She floats around the room, long hair, but horrible disfigured face. And sometimes she comes out of lanterns, like paper lanterns, and they come to life, and she comes out of it. And in some of those different accounts, there was a baby. All kinds of weird, you know, there's different versions of the story, but it was famously done as a kabuki play. one of the more I think 1825 or something. It's called the Yotsuya Kaidan is the name of the, and if you look up Yotsuya Kaidan, you'll find all kinds of movie adaptations of this. It's been, even I think Takashi Miike made a version of this just a couple years ago. So it's like, more cutting edge, postmodern versions, and there's been some set in modern times as well. But go back to classic Japanese movies from decades ago, you'll find versions of this, because it's like the most famous ghost story in Japan. And I'm sure that all those spooky ghosts you see in the Japanese horror movies, from Sadako to Kayako, and many other ones in legend and story, owe a lot of who they are and what they are to Oiwa, because she's sort of the model for every other Japanese ghost. All the floaty long black hair stuff really comes from her. So she's like, like you always imagine a vampire's wearing a tux because Dracula had one. And so she's sort of become like the archetype. So she's a major Japanese spook. And they're making her one of the 4 icons, obviously. They don't have a logo for the house, The Haunting of Oiwa, but it's based on this story, this legend. But they have a conceptual drawing which shows a Japanese room with the paper sliding walls and many lanterns. If you look closely, some of the lanterns have faces, and horrible faces that look a bit like what Oiwa is supposed to look like. And there's a figure approaching her, but you can't see her face. It's obscured by the lanterns, which she's floating. Notice in the background there, she's floating, and look at the lanterns. See some of the faces in the lanterns, a couple of the one over here, one over here. I don't know why that's backwards. Usually, or maybe when I think it's when I'm filming it, it looks reverse. But when you actually see it, when this gets processed, it'll come out the other way, and you can read that. It should read The Haunting of Oiwa. But you see here one of the faces, and in the lanterns, they're on what I guess would be your left, because right now it looks like it's on the right. And some other faces there if you look carefully. But there she is floating, and oh yeah, there's some scary somebody outside, and blood splatters, looks like, in shadows, and that poor guy's in deep shit. I think he better turn around and get the hell out of that room, although in Japanese, curses can follow you forever, so there's no way out. Oh, by the way, location. I had given you the location of the Kill Illuminati house. Oh, and I may even give a location of Stranger Things. What does it say? Breezeway, next to New York Public Library. So that's where Stranger Things will be. And the Pontiac House, between Jurassic Park, Rapids, Adventure, and Revenge of the Mummy. Pagoda of Peril will be located at Waterworld. And the Haunting of Oiwa, Ancient Egypt, behind Revenge of the Mummy. Okay, now there are 2 scare zones that have been announced, and the first one is called Apocalypse Earth, and will be located in a New York Street area at Universal Studios Singapore. And they've done apocalyptic zones before, but this time it's more like nature's revenge. Mother Earth is fed up with all the environmental, ecological damage that you human slime have been pissing her off. So she's taking her own revenge. The planet's turning, plants, animals, everything's coming to destroy humanity, is my guess. It says, unleashes her most terrifying forces, take over New York. There's a picture, conceptual picture. It shows what looks like plants growing over the city. There'll probably be scare actor creatures of some sort, I imagine. Nature's own forces rising up in retaliation against bad stewardship of polluting, environmentally unsound people with their big carbon footprints instead of little. Oh my goodness, you've been so bad. And now cannibal, that's a very basic. Oh look, the L looks like a human figure. That's clever, because that's what they eat. people eat people's meat. It's in ancient Egypt. You know, it's the graphic for that cannibal, and basically it's a tribe of cannibals, you know, doing what they do best, hunting you down, manhunters, tribal manhunters. And there will also be a bit of a show in that one. There's a couple of shows, killer live shows. One will be featured in the Cannibal Scare Zone, and so the chief of the tribe sacrifices their capture on an ancestral altar. The human sacrifice possessed by the spirit of the ancestors, which gives the tribesmen extra strength when they devour him. That will be called Blood and Bones. And then there is a show called Dead Talk, like TED Talk. Yeah, TED Talks. The Dead Talk will be in the Pantages Hollywood Theater, in the like where they have monster makeup, right? And in there there'll be a sort of a says take a break from the screams, and the host is Gideon Grimm. Gideon Grimm, not Gideon Fell. No, Gideon Grimm, who's a motivational death coach. Not a life coach, a death coach. And he captivates you with tips on highly effective scaring in Dead Talks. All new witty seminar style show with cutting edge illusions, electrifying dancing and acrobatics. And then there is the Scaremony on the Hollywood Lagoon stage. Not an opening ceremony only one night, but a ceremony every night. It's going to happen at, they're going to set the stage up, and it's going to represent a place called the 8 Lake, again the letter 8, number 8, 8 Lake Psychiatric Hospital, where fear rises, make way through unsettling, creepy halls of hospital filled with screaming apparitions of unwilling patients. So this ceremony will be held at the beginning of every night. Now, unlike previous edition with one opening ceremony held at the beginning of each night, this year's ceremony will be held at various times across the night. So even if you're not there at 7:30, it won't just be an opening night, opening show for, you know, like an opening moment ceremony, opening ceremony for each night. It's going to be several times the ceremony will be presented, but it doesn't seem to be tied into the icons of the houses because it has a different theme about a psychiatric hospital. But they might show up. They might be some of the madness of the patients. They might be haunted in their minds by these very creatures. And my iPad went off again. Why does it keep doing that? Can't get it to come back up. Okay. Maybe it's the cat walking across it messed something up. So is that it? Let me take a look. I think that's all of it. And we already knew of the zombie laser. Oh yeah, the website. Now right now the website shows you the Pontiac. So that's the first of the 4 icons revealed on the website. We already know the 4 icons. We already know in addition to Pontiac we have Lucifer, and we have the Yin Demon, Lady Oiwa, and I think that's it, 4, right. So we have those 4 people. 2, I guess the Yin Demon's male, so 2 guys, 2 girls. 2 Chinese, 1 Japanese, 1 Malay. So they're all there, and there'll be the icons for this year's event. Revenge Lives Forever is either a name for the Pontiac house, although it's listed simply as Pontiac. Not Pontiac, that's a car. Pontiac, not Pontiac. Pontiac. Okay, it's Knack, not Ack. Okay, so she is featured prominently in a video game. Okay, so you see her there, right? And she's got a video game you can play. And each icon apparently will come up with their own game that you can play online. And there's prizes like you win tickets. Although I think if you don't actually live in the area, you might not want to bother because you still got to fly all the way to Singapore, dude. It's not exactly across the street. But the first video game is a bit difficult, but it's like you see the person running and you got to move them, and you got to use your little your cursor arrows. It doesn't work on your mouse, So you have to, like the directional arrows, so you're tapping those to move left or right, so there's stuff in her way, like there's some scary shit in the Pontiac itself, so you don't want to run into anything scary or she'll die. But there's like something she's picking, it looks like steaks, maybe like golden steaks, or you know, like Buffy steaks, but they're made of gold, or thumbtacks, or something like something you're supposed to pick up. And she wants to pick as many of these as she can as she goes along to acquire points. I don't know what happens if you win, because I've never won yet. Eventually you run into something and got killed. But if you get a really high score, maybe, even if you don't win, and Pontiac shows up and you are dead, which happens every time I play it, then you can enter sweepstakes for a ticket for Horror Nights in Singapore. But again, you probably have to fly all the way there, and I'm not sure if it is eligible for people living in other countries like the United States. I didn't read the fine print because I didn't bother anyway. So, but that's going on. So there's games, you can still play the games. So there's interactive games on the website, which is more exciting and wonderful than any other Horror Nights website out there, as usual. So they're doing really amazing stuff in Singapore every year, and they're continuing this year. 5 haunted houses that I mentioned, 4 icons, 2 scare zones, 3 shows, and zombie laser tag. In addition to online games, it's a game in the park you can play for a little extra charge. Go play zombie laser tag. One of the houses is interactive, be different every time, and you can become part of the story. OMG. It's just really astounding. Every year they top themselves, and there's more nights. They added an extra night this year. It starts even earlier. And the guy that runs the show, in, you know, like Michael Aiello and Patrick Brayard over here in Orlando, and John Murdy in Hollywood, the guy who's in charge, a young guy, Australian named Markham Gannon, and he's doing incredible stuff. He and his people are brilliant. I've not actually been, of course. I can only know from what I see online and all the videos that people have taken, and hearing from people who've been there, but they all tell me, oh God, this is like old school HHN, but with the what they can do now, because back then they were limited in budget, and that's like my great goal. I like to do Hollywood, I like to do Japan, but the one horror night besides Orlando that I really want to do some year is Singapore. One of these years I'm going to get a ticket and fly across the ocean and get to Singapore and see that, because I can only expect to get more and more wonderful. Alright, so that's what they're doing in Singapore this year, and apparently the whole event is, but it might be more stuff anyway at some point revealed, because they're going to show off the icons with each house reveal, even though we already know them, because they do that every year. They tell the press, it all gets leaked out, I mean officially, and it's all done up in blogs and all over the internet, but on their website they let you wait and see, and then they have a game, and they show some new images. Ooh, that's what they look like. I still don't know what the Yin Demon looks like, mind you. I have no idea what the Yin Demon is. There's that face, but is that it? You know, I'm not quite sure about. And we know what Lucifer looks like, and Lady Oiwa we couldn't see because she's floating behind those. You know, we only saw a floating kimono. We didn't see above the neck, so there's a little, and we didn't even see a logo for that one. So there's a little bit of mystery still. They're letting to tease us a bit more. What is Gideon Grimm? Is he going to be, you know, featured more than just as a host? Could be quite fun, but at least 4 icons. Again, they seem to like doing multiple icons now, sharing the stage. So, very exciting. And they have a whole family of icons and other characters from Singapore that rival, maybe even surpass the ones we have in Orlando. The original characters in Singapore rock. The 3 sisters, and their director, and the puppet master, and the minister of horror, and Lady Death, and all the other little characters that popped up. You know, there's some sinister figures that they had in some of the early events that weren't the event icon, but were still featured prominently. Just amazing stuff. And you can find all the history of Horror Nights in Singapore at deadjiki.com. He has archives. You can go back year by year and look at pictures and amaze yourself at what they've done there. So I still highly recommend his blog. And I'm running out of time, so that's it. Next time I might do that 12th video of Horror Nights 25 History at Last and finally talk about the Walking Dead house from 2015. And at some point I'm going to get some items for a cocktail. I don't have them yet. And then some evening I'll be doing my next Horror Nights house cocktail video for Slaughter Cinema. I had a really good idea, but the ingredient just isn't available in this area, and it pisses me off. I don't know how I can get a hold of the bottle, but apparently it's not available around here. So I'll have to come up with a different idea. But hopefully soon, hate that word, and then when something else gets revealed, I'll come back and do another one of these. And until then, of course, there's still 4 more matches in the World Cup. Alright, then I'll leave it at that. See you fellows later. Bye-bye.